Hi everybody, welcome to the Foundation Light Careers Week video conference. Today we've got Claire Molyneux, who works at the Premier League as their games program manager. Claire, thanks for joining us.
No problem at all.
Thank you very much. I know we'll run down the questions and we'll have a chat around your job role, around how you got into your job role, your school experience, and how you got to where you are now. Is that okay?
Absolutely fine, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. So just to start off with, could we have a description of your job role, please? What's the purpose of the role and what's a general working week look like for you?
Yep, so I am the games program manager at the Premier League, and I very much deal with the under 9s through to under 16s. So we shape their games program, so that may be their weekly football fixtures. So it's all of the boys that are within an academy, albeit at the Premier League and within the Football League. So we will be organising the weekly fixtures, tournaments, festivals, and really with the ultimate aim to give the boys as much football experience as possible, and ultimately transition into the first team would be the ultimate goal for us.
Brilliant, thank you. And what in terms of so is your working week Monday to Friday? I would imagine it's weekends and maybe.
Yes, so Monday to Friday, a lot of our events happen in school holidays and weekends. So the working week would very much be organising the event, ensuring we have all the information we need from the clubs about the players attending. We deal with international clubs as well, so dealing with international clubs and getting the information that we require, dealing with venues, making sure everything's in place for a smooth running event, really.
Brilliant. In terms of the history of yourself, so in terms of the education side of when you were in school, how did you find education in general?
I was very lucky. I did really like school. I got on really well at school. I didn't necessarily sit in any of the top groups for any of the subjects, really. Probably favourite subjects were science and art. Quite creative, so I liked that sort of side of it. Maths was not a good subject for me. It still isn't now, to be honest. But you just get through that. But I really had a good positive attitude towards my work, and probably I think some of the teachers were a little bit surprised at my final grades. I think I'd done better than they would maybe anticipated, and I think I put that down to the work I put in and maybe the attitude towards my work. But I did enjoy school.
Brilliant. So say for example, maths and I would imagine there's a lot of young people up and down the country that find either maths or English a bit of a struggle. How did you manage that in terms of, obviously, did you find it difficult, or was it just disengaged from the subject, not really interested in the subject?
I feel because I wasn't very good at it, so that maybe was I disengaged slightly from it. I really did try, but it's just it's not something that comes now. I still struggle with it now. I think it's because I'm not confident with it. As long as I've got a calculator, I'm normally all right.
Yeah, exactly. And then in school, how did you manage that? So how did you make sure that you passed that, achieved that qualification? Because I can imagine there'll be a lot of people on here that have got subjects that they're not necessarily good at or like, but they still need to go to them and they still need to pass them as such. So how did you get around that in terms of when you were at school? How did you attend a subject that you didn't like, but made sure that you got what you needed to get out of it?
So at the time where I was struggling in certain areas, I did have the confidence to speak to the teacher and just explain there were certain areas that I didn't understand, instead of where previously I'd maybe just ignored it and just thought, I don't understand it, I'll just hopefully we'll be learning about something else next week. But I did approach the teachers and ask if I could just have some time to sit and go through it, and was lucky enough, had some really good teachers. So we sat down after the lesson, maybe I think probably in part of the lunchtime, and just went through certain areas that I was struggling with, which did help. And even after my GCSEs, I did, particularly with the maths, I didn't achieve a C, which I was hoping to. Obviously, it's very helpful to do so. So I did retake it I wasn't happy that I got the D. I really did want the C. So I retook the maths and achieved the grade that I wanted to. So even if you don't necessarily achieve it at the time of the exam, there is another opportunity, which I did take.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And it's great to showcase that a small bit of your commitment, especially when you were in school, of saying like, I'll
Yeah,
give up half an hour my lunch break, and the teachers are there to help.
yeah.
As long as you communicate that, if you show a bit of willingness to improve yourself, you'll get that back in abundance from school.
Oh,
Uh,
they were very happy. I think that I'd even taken the time out to ask them, because, as you said, they're very
yeah,
willing to help.
no, that's great. And then again, like you said, the fact that you've got other opportunities if it doesn't work out how you wanted it to work
Yeah,
out is always
luckily.
nice. Safety net, yeah, brilliant. In terms of your personal journey, can you just go into a bit of description of your personal journey from school to your current role now? Did you go into further education, higher education? Did you get an apprenticeship? How did it work?
So I never had the idea that I was going to attend university. It just never came into my thoughts. So I went on to do A levels. Again, I didn't really do fantastically well at those either, but I gave them a good shot. And it was coming towards the end of A levels, and I really started to think, what do I want to do? I suppose we'll come on to it in a bit, but I'd started to go and watch football from quite a young age, and I loved it. Loved the industry, loved everything about it, and really had in mind that, it's something that an industry I'd like to work in. Not really 100% sure doing what, but I had this vision that I was gonna work in the industry. So I actually put together my CV, so structured my CV again with help from the school, and I sent it out to 3 football clubs within my area. So I sent it out to Millwall Football Club, Gillingham, and Charlton. I'd actually done a little bit of work experience at Charlton, so again, it just reinforced me wanting to work in football. So I sent those 3 CVs out, and I was actually very, very lucky that I received a call from Millwall Football Club. And at the time, they'd been promoted. They were looking for someone to work within the offices. I didn't actually, my dad took the call for me. I was on holiday. And my dad, actually being a Millwall supporter, told them that I could absolutely do everything that they were asking me to do. So on returning from my holiday, when I'd finished my A levels, I went straight into the job as a trial. And 6 years later, I was still on the trial. I was still there. And I worked my way up, worked really hard. Again, the office job was great. I learned a lot about how the club operates, and gradually worked my way up to assistant club secretary. So I worked with the secretary across the first team, so dealing with accommodation for away games and the signing of players. So yeah, I had a great time, particularly at Millwall. We had a promotion whilst I was there. We had a great FA Cup run while we were there, getting to the final. So I had a really great time. And yeah, so after 6 years, I decided that I'd sort of done everything that I wanted to do there. And an opportunity came up at the Premier League, which I went for.
Brilliant. If I just take it back a second, so when you went to work placement with Charlton,
Yes.
was that in school?
Yes.
And what was that,
Um,
2 weeks, or how did that work? What was the logistics of that?
I think it was a year 9 work placement, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I went actually to work within the community.
Mhm.
So I went out to schools, just some football training. Football, the tactical side of football is not, I don't play football.
Mhm.
I did try, I was terrible. So that's not something, I don't go out. I work very much within the industry, but I'm not out on the grass at all. So, and actually from that placement, I thought probably the football side of it was not something I want to do. But I worked in the offices, helping with their school schemes at the time. I think it was the holiday schemes, and help administer those. So yeah, definitely within the 2 weeks of my work experience, I really did think, oh yeah, something I would like to be involved in.
Yeah, and I think that's really valuable in the sense that you use that opportunity in school to find out what you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I had a similar story where I spent a day at a college I always thought I wanted to be a bricklayer. I don't know why. My friends did it. Everybody that I knew did it. So I was like, I want to be a bricklayer. And I think I was in year 10, and I went for a day in college to one of the colleges that offer that. And I built a wall, and my head of year laughed at me, and he was like, Jazz, I don't think this is for you. I went, I don't think it is, sir. Because my wall was the most wonkiest wall you've ever seen. It wasn't even straight. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but I wouldn't have knew that if I didn't do that. And I got that from school. So I was very lucky to have that experience, because if I ended up doing it when I was in college or something, I would have went, it's a bad idea, it's a bad
Yeah.
choice for me. I learned that early, and I think that's really important for young people to understand that if they can get an opportunity to volunteer or go on work placements, use that, because you'll
Yeah.
find out either way if you like something or if you don't, and that's the best way to do things.
Yeah, the definitely work placements, volunteering, courses. You can't underestimate what you can get for those, and the networking and the people you meet, and yeah, just exactly what you're saying. It's invaluable just to get an idea of if you want to do it or not.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. It's brilliant to see that there's a big change in perceptions now, with females being more and more involved in the game in a variety of different capacities, from playing to TV to work behind the scenes. So, what inspired you to work within the football industry, especially at a time when I think there's a big change now in terms of females being involved in the game? It's brilliant to see. You've got the World Cup on the telly, you've got female presenters and things like that. But little like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it really wasn't a thing. And how did you want to get involved in football? Was it just generally through interest, or?
Yeah, generally. So I start within my football career started 20 years ago, really. I've been in it a long time. At the time, I didn't really have any worries about being a woman going into the football industry. I just knew that I wanted to work in it. And I am very positive and motivated, so I sort of went for it. But definitely 20 years ago was very different. And if you look at football now, as you said, commentators, presenters, there's always a woman presenting, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I think definitely as a young woman, I was inspired from my dad, really taking me along initially. I've recently been on a women in football leadership course, which was fantastic. And I got to meet so many women working in the industry, which was totally inspiring, because the job roles span an absolute, it spans so many different things. It isn't just, thinking of football, you think of the weekend playing. There's so many varied roles, and it was great to meet so many women in doing so many different things.
Yeah, and that's a big message I'm keen on getting across, in the terms of, especially to our female participants and females that we come across through our line of work, that you can work within not even just football, just in sport in general, without actually being involved on the playing side. I think a lot of people believe that if you're not playing and you're not involved in the playing element of it, then you can't do work for clubs and things, which is totally incorrect. And that's why I'm very thankful that you're on here, because your role within the Premier League is valuable as well. But it's valuable to show that females in particular can work within sport outside of the playing element. So thank you for that. I
Yeah.
think you've briefly touched on it with your father, but who influenced you when you were younger, and who influences and motivates you now?
I had varied influences, really. Definitely family. I had really good teachers. So going through the school years, there was definitely people that influenced me. And I was thinking, maybe along my way and my journey, particular at Millwall, I worked with a lady who came in as a chairwoman, Heather Rabatz. And to me at the time, she was just totally inspiring. This lady that came into a really male-dominated sector, and the way she conducted herself, the way she went around her business, was just totally inspiring to me. I looked at her, I was like, wow. And I really feel like I've taken probably some of her confidence on with me, because I looked at how she went about things and thought, okay, that's how you get things done in this industry.
Yeah.
Just have a lot of confidence. She's definitely someone that inspired me on the way, definitely.
No, brilliant. I know that we were speaking about it previously, about role models and not even knowing people personally, but just being in there around them and the aura that they give off and the way they conduct themselves and the way they
Yeah.
speak and the way they handle themselves. I think it's really important for people to see that. And just like you were saying there, in terms of that lady that you were inspired by, just being around her and just being
Yeah.
about how she carried herself was really important, because then you mirrored that
Mhm.
and you became your own. So I think that's really, really valuable. Thank you for that. In terms of barriers, so what's one barrier you face in your professional career, and how did you overcome that?
Um, I was thinking about it, and it really does go back to, I think, being a woman within definitely the industry. So working within the academy. So I'm in the clubs, working with coaches, and it's probably, I still get that slight imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
I'm a woman within the industry. Do I really know anything about football? Um, so that's probably what I've learned to overcome, and I think working hard, doing a good job, putting on some fantastic events has probably helped me gain the respect of those coaches. They can see what I'm very good at. Um, so I've overcome it with hard work, really. I'm older in the industry now, so I'm more confident. Maybe at the back in the day, within a room full of coaches, I remember not being particularly confident, but now I know I'm good at my job, so I can hold my head high and definitely overcome it that way.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And like you were saying, experience is key. I think the more experience you get, the
Yeah.
more confident you become in your own skin, because the more knowledge you get.
Mhm.
So no, that's brilliant. In terms of management being part of your role, what are three key skills you need to carry out for your role to be successful, and why are they important?
Um, I pride myself really on having a real sort of authentic leadership style.
Mhm.
That's the way I like to conduct myself. So I think the three key points for me would always be working as a team. I would always work as a team, even when we're on site. I am one of the team. I'm not that leader that would stand there and tell everyone what to do and sit down and have a cup of tea. I get stuck in,
Yeah,
and I don't mind doing that. Listening to people, really taking on their ideas, maybe ideas that are not necessarily take on, but I will listen and definitely have a conversation around it. And knowing that people know that they can speak to me,
yeah,
not worried to put their ideas forward, and trusting people to do a good job. I don't like to micromanage, so I'm more than happy to give everyone their jobs and let them get on with it, without having to double check on them all the time. So trusting people.
yeah. No, that's brilliant. I think speaking to a lot of people and yourself, the one that comes across is the authenticity of it, like you were saying, in
Yeah.
terms of just be a people person, just be a nice person, if regardless of if you're a manager or if you're on the front line or whatever. And then people will genuinely follow your lead, because one, they believe in you, they trust you, but two, because they know that you're trying to make them better. So,
Mhm.
like you were saying, in terms of listening to their ideas, you know you're there to help them, and you're willing to give them a chance. So that comes across. Um, I seen here that you were involved in the London Olympics in 2012, working with the United Arab Emirates football team. What was that experience like to be involved in, and did it further develop you professionally?
Definitely, it was one of an experience that we'll never ever forget.
Yeah,
Um, I it just from initially meeting them at the airport, I think it took me around an hour and a half to get them out onto the coach, because I don't think they understood that I was there to look after them. Um, so I knew from day one it was going to be interesting. Um, they were, as a team, just really difficult, and demanding. It was probably about 2 or 3 days in, I called my partner and said, I give up. I cannot do this. It's awful. I think I was in tears.
right.
Um, I was just finding it really, really difficult, because as a volunteer, I thought I've not, I don't need this.
Yeah,
Um, it was so difficult, but I came off the phone and I thought, no, this is my chance, once in a lifetime chance to work at the Olympics. And I stood from that moment, I stood my ground, and didn't take what some what they were giving
any
me.
rubbish. Yeah,
Um, and from that moment, I think actually standing my ground, built some respect with the team, and we went on to have an absolutely fantastic 2 weeks. I mean, walking out at Wembley, Great Britain versus the UAE with a full stadium, it was absolutely surreal. So I look back, and definitely what I took from that, just never give up, even how hard it got. And I was ready to just get in the car and drive home. And I'm so glad I didn't. I just stuck it out, and stood my ground, and it was absolutely brilliant, and an experience I would never forget. So I'm just so glad that I didn't throw it away.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message you're giving out there in terms of you were at the end of giving up, and just over the other side of that, when you didn't, was actually the best experience best experience professionally, one of the best experiences you've had. I think that's really important to showcase, because especially young people, sometimes the easiest option is giving up, and just going back to what you know.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes what they're not really aware of is if they just see it out, it's probably going to make them the best version of themselves they can be. And you've definitely probably, like you were saying, has grown from that experience. So prior
Yeah.
to that experience to post that experience, you were a better person professionally in terms
Mhm.
of knowledge and awareness. So no, that's brilliant. Um, Overall, thinking about your job roles from school and now, what advice would you give to your younger self, with everything that you've got in terms of knowledge, experience, and also what advice would you give to younger females looking to get involved in the football industry, but also the sporting industry in general, with all the knowledge and experience you have? What would you say?
I think we touched on it before, but just getting any form of experience, it can be anything. So putting yourself forward to volunteer within the community, or just at the club itself on a match day, networking, doing any courses, free courses that are out there. Um, the amount of courses that I've been on, and I thought, not sure I can really be bothered to do this, but I will. I'll develop myself, and then meet some fantastic people that I still speak to now, leads on to other things, and really does open doors. So just as many experiences as you can get like that really help. And one of the main things which I haven't been in my early career and maybe are now is just to be ambitious. Um, I understand that if a job role is there, women feel that they need 100% of what's being asked for, and if they haven't got 100% of the criteria, they won't apply. Where men will apply even if they've only got 60% of what's being asked for. So really, just go for it, even though you maybe haven't got some of the criteria that they're asking for. Go for it anyway.
Yeah.
You never know. You can learn within those jobs. So be ambitious, which I know I haven't been. And looking back now in some areas and at some times of my life, I wish I had been.
No, that's brilliant advice. Thank you very much. I know, like, I always got used to get told in terms of when I was younger, we just show up. 70% of it is showing up. Once you're showing
Yeah.
up, you're there, and then the other 30% looks after itself, because, like you said, you network, you meet people, you engage with conversations and things, and things just flow from that. So if you turn up, which is the hardest bit, you're in.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think that's really important to give that message across, that if they apply for the job, or if they just put themselves forward, even if they don't get it, it's an experience at the end of the day.
Mhm.
If you go for a job interview and you don't get the job, you've got an experience of a job interview. I think that's really, really important. Um,
That's right. I think I've just to add to that as well. I've had many people come for interviews at the Premier League, and they haven't necessarily got the job that they were applying for. But we would all often remember the people that have caught our eye, and even though they were not necessarily given the job that they were applying for, we've remembered them and put forward other jobs and contacted them. So it's definitely worth turning up.
yeah, brilliant advice. Thanks, Claire. Is there anything else you would like to say? Have we covered everything in terms of your working life, your professional life? Is there any other messages you would like to give out?
I think so. I think I've covered most things. I think I've been really lucky. I work within an industry that I've got a real passion for, so it doesn't actually feel like work. It's never really felt like work. So really, if you're going to look for a job, look at those industries that you've got real interest for, and it would never feel like work.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And from my side, it was very important to have you on because I think you can give real good value and knowledge, especially to our female participants in the schools that we work in. I want them to see that you can achieve a really good role within a sporting industry, regardless of gender. So don't be put off because you think it's a male dominant thing, or in any walk of life, don't think you can't get the high end jobs because you're a female or because of where you're from or anything like that. Just go and achieve, and you represent that, and go and give that off. So thanks very much for your time. I genuinely appreciate it. This will be really valuable to all our participants when this goes out. So thank you very much for that. And I'll speak to you soon.
No problem. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.